Good Saturday to each and every one of you. This is Your Questions, Your Money here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Daga McDowell.
And I'm Tracy Burns. We had a good 2 hours, and we got an excellent 2 hours coming up. It's all about small business, your business, entrepreneurialism. How do you keep yourself afloat in these turbulent times?
So you saw, if you were watching, you saw us tease our next guest with some video, surfers. It was all dudes. What's up with that? Well, our next two guests in 1996 tried to start changing all of that. Izzy and Coco Tahani are number 24 on Inc. magazine's list of the 26 most fascinating entrepreneurs. These two sisters founded their surfing school for women, Surf Diva Surf School. One is in La Jolla, California. The other is in Costa Rica. And Tracy and I, are so excited that you two ladies are here. But Coco and Izzy, it really grew out of Izzy. Well, you two grew up surfing, and you just got tired of guys giving the ladies a hard time. Just tell us how you just got the gumption to start the business.
Well, I'd been surfing my whole life with my sisters and always thought that girls should surf, and really got sick of the fact that there was no instruction for women, no surfboards for women, and nothing allowing women to enter the water confidently. And so we decided to change that.
But you guys got on surfboards when you were 3. This is wild to me because I've actually never been on a surfboard. I would be the perfect student for you right now.
Absolutely.
Clean slate. I'd come out there. So you're 3, you're surfing your whole life, and you decide, you know what, we can make money out of this.
Well, I paid my way through college by teaching surfing, and we both went to UC San Diego and majored in communications and literature writing. It's something we always wanted to do, was work in the surf industry, and we found a complete need, a lack of instruction, and thought, well, let's fill that niche. And so we went for it.
And we'd always wanted to work together, and we were working in the surf industry, and it's just a great industry to work in.
And business has been great, ladies. You got, several years ago, in 2004, opened a boutique as well. And you've expanded it to selling your gear in other retailers, and that's really where it is. How's that growing in a clearly tough retail environment?
Well, we love our shop. That's the two things that we love most are surfing and shopping, and
because we're divas.
And so the shop itself is in La Jolla, and it's kind of what we've always dreamt of would be a perfect surf shop, a combination of a boutique and shop where you can buy your surfboards, but you can buy your bling jewelry, your cool bikini, all in one.
So how many students?
It's our dream.
How many students do you get, and what are the ages that these girls come in?
The cool thing is we get thousands of students a year, and we start them as young as 5. And recently we found a huge boom in the baby boomers coming to surf with us. Yeah. Women celebrating their 60th birthday, their 70th birthday. You can be any age, any fitness level, and come out and learn to surf.
I'm going to carry the board, though. I'm not even sure I could do that.
I love the fact that you started this business with a little more than $300. That's really all it took.
Yeah. That's what it took. That and a lot of hard work, and we did have other jobs at the time, weekend jobs, evening jobs, but you just make it work, and everything's been bootstrapped the whole way.
You're open. What about plans to open other surf schools? Because you have one, as we said, one in La Jolla and then one in Costa Rica. Are you focusing on other areas in other countries rather than here, as kind of the state beaches and the cities are really trying to, well, stick it to you and collect revenue from you using public beaches?
We need a surf school in Jersey.
Yes. Okay, we'll be right over.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've surfed in New Jersey, and it's a great area to surf. They're known for the Jersey juice, and those waves can come in pretty strong during the hurricanes.
Well,
so
I was at Virginia Beach. I was at Virginia Beach last week, and there were some fine female surfers out there. Actually, they're much more beautiful surfers than the guys are. But where are you guys going to open more schools?
Well, we're looking actively for licensees who want to work with us and open up new locations. And we just need the right partners. And we're willing to talk to people about that if they're interested in working with us on the East Coast, in Hawaii, Puerto Rico. We're even talking to someone in Fiji right now.
Do you license the school in Costa Rica, or are those the only that you operate both of those?
Those are company-owned stores.
So are you guys
operations.
flying back and forth from La Jolla to Costa Rica all the time?
Yes, we have staff that live there 9 months out of the year during the season, and then we get to go and work in Costa Rica.
Yeah, that's not a bad life, let me tell you.
Izzy and Coco,
Exactly.
you guys are founders of Surf Diva, you're going to be with us for this whole hour. So I want everybody, they're on Twitter, we're on Twitter. So again, you can tweet FBN Your Money if you want to send in questions for them. But it's all about bootstraps. It's 6 minutes after the hour. Time to welcome our listeners on Sirius XM Radio. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network.
So you can call us with any entrepreneurial question you got going right now. It's 877-249-9626. You can always send us an email to yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. And Coco and Izzy, I want to jump back to you guys real quick. One of the things we've heard as a theme, I think, through all our entrepreneurs is that you didn't quit your day job before the next one took off. You know, you have this vision, but you still got to pay the bills, right? So you worked on this nights and weekends to get it going.
You
Absolutely.
really do. You have to be able to, when you start a business, you have to be passionate about it and know that it takes 8 days a week to work.
And also the combination of one of you, and there's no offense in any of this, one of you is more focused on the business aspect of the company, and then the other is focused on maybe the creative surfing part of the business. So it's, again, the pairing that really makes it work.
Yes, we like to say that I'm the surf and Coco's the diva. And so that means that I focus on the school, the instruction, designing the boards, and she focuses on the retail and the business side.
Well, we're here to talk about business, and we want to welcome our panel of experts to answer your questions about your business this hour. The Tiani sisters are going to stay with us, and of course, in-house, as always, who are also both in California, Dani Babb with the Babb Group is there.
John had a late night, apparently.
And John Rutledge with Rutledge Capital. He's trying to fit in with the whole surfing theme. He's giving it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm loving it. I love the glasses.
And then,
It's the California Maui thing.
and hold on to your seats, everybody. Our venture capitalist this hour is Tim Draper. If you don't know his name, shame on you. Founder and managing director of DFJ, Draper Fisher Dervison. And his son is also here, Billy Draper, specializing in entertainment. Billy is still in school at UCLA. Entertainment, music. You can go to Billy's website. You can tweet him. You can tweet
BillyDraper.com.
BillyDraper.com. And you can also tweet you as well. But you've been very lax on the Twitter.
I've been a little slow picking it up. That's true.
You and me
but go
both.
to TimDraper.com. We got a lot of visitors. I do tweet, and eventually I'm going to do something that's kind of fun where I say, first entrepreneur back to me, meet me at Bucks, 9 o'clock.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
But Tim, some of the businesses that you've actually invested in dovetail nicely with what the Tiani sisters do. Fog Dog, for one, just one example.
You do your research.
Online retail. So I want to know your view of what they're doing and their, I guess, the growth opportunities there.
Okay, the best thing I heard about that was that it was started with $300. I thought that was brilliant. I think it's fantastic that they're doing that. And actually, I want to learn to surf. I can body surf, but I really want to learn to surf. Do you just take divas, or guys
No.
okay too?
No,
Okay.
we teach dudes as well. So we have a program called Guys on the Side. So you're welcome to come back.
Absolutely.
Don't
We get
alienate
sort of
any potential
special
audience.
treatment there, huh? Guys on the side. Anyway,
Yes.
I think a lot of people want to learn to surf. I think that's a big consumer opportunity, and it'll be a nice niche business for them. I don't recommend that they go out to the sharks, the venture capital sharks, because they really should be just surfing over them.
But they do have a retail component, though.
It's true. And if
Yes,
you get
we have online.
if you get 4 or 5 shops going that are all profitable, that would be a good time to go out to venture capital.
Tim, you've done it pretty much all, and you've seen it all. What is the environment?
Oh, God, that's depressing to hear about.
I mean, you're a wealth
There's
of
so much more to see.
I'm hoping, like,
Okay.
through osmosis, I'm getting something here. Where do you see the environment right now for the entrepreneur out?
Okay, for an entrepreneur, it's almost the perfect time to start a business because all the greatest businesses of the world have been started during times like this when there's chaos in the streets. The idea is you have a depression or a recession, and a lot of people are out of work, and people are looking for new things. And the new things are usually created by those startups, those people who leave their job to go off and start something new. This is the perfect time. This is the most exciting time ever.
For you?
For me.
Really?
Because, well, the other thing is that it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to get money right now. And it's difficult for venture capitalists to get money. And it's difficult for the people who fund venture capitalists to get money. But if you figure out ways to do it with less money, you actually end up with a more creative business and a business that stays cheap for years and years and years. And that's why GE and Exxon and Procter & Gamble and all these 60-year-old companies were started in recessions and depressions.
But what type of business, be specific, is hot that you love right now?
Well, I think the thing I'm the most excited about is something called, well, I'm excited about a lot of things because we have some very interesting clean technology companies. We have a company with $10 billion worth of orders for electricity that's a bunch of mirrors that point at a big vat of water that boils the water and generates steam. So the sun hits the mirrors and reflects into this vat of water. It was kind of wild technology, and it ended up working very well. I'm also excited about anything that is going to make it easier for investors and entrepreneurs to sell shares. We're starting something called Exchange, which is a new market for private companies. And that new market allows some of these smaller businesses to get some liquidity. The liquidity is the ability to sell your shares easily where they don't actually have to go public. Going public turns out to be very expensive because there's some new laws that make it very difficult.
And you also just invested in SpaceX, so we're going to talk about that later in the hour. We just have to take a quick break. And Billy, we didn't forget about you. And of course, Dani and John are out in Cali, and they're ready and waiting to answer
he took his glasses
your
off.
questions. And you look so much more handsome, John. Hey, so you have to call or email us or even tweet us with a question. We will answer it. It's about your business.
And coming up, so you want to be a star? We've got someone who's going to pitch it to you. We'll be right back. Hey, happy Saturday. Welcome back to Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network. We are up on a Saturday having a great time. We had 2 solid hours, housing, healthcare. We're moving on to that entrepreneurial spark that, as John Rutledge says, it's the blue flame coming out of your butt. I like saying it. It makes a lot of sense. We're going to an email.
I hate that word, though.
Why?
I don't know.
John's going to say
No,
it himself.
I hate
All
the
right, fine.
fanning word.
Going to the email. I'm a small business owner with a landscaping company, and I am in desperate need of cash flow. Aren't we all? I've heard of people receiving grants. Do you know how to find grants to assist myself and other struggling small businesses? Dani, I'm going to throw this right out to you.
There are a couple of places you can go look for grants. There's grants.gov, there's finance.gov/grants, and there's business.gov/grants. And if you're a minority business owner, there's mdba.gov. But I would look at other ways besides receiving grants to try to solve this business problem. For example, there are a ton of foreclosures out there, particularly in some areas, much more so in some areas than others. I would work with the city, which right now is giving money to landscapers, to go in and rehab these homes, do the lawns, maintain the properties. You're not going to get as much money as you would from a homeowner that's doing well, but you will get some cash flow, and it just might be enough to carry you into the next business cycle.
And John, what about banks that are sitting on inventories of foreclosed properties and distressed properties? There's the opportunity there as well.
Well, banks are actually sitting on their buttocks rather than their inventories.
Thank you for using the proper version of that word.
Yeah, you can't say ass on cable, David. That's the problem. But they're not doing anything for small businesses. Although we did run into a business this week that was able to borrow $13,000 for a startup for a company, which is something. But I think that's the only business loan made in America in the last in the last 6 months. But you know, regarding your landscaping company, I think your best source of capital is your customers. So if you do project work, I'd go back to the last 2 years worth of projects you did. I'd knock on every door and I'd say, is there anything that needs upgrading or changing in your business? You can get little bits of cash flow there. I'd also, if you run a service business, I'd try and upsell the customer for a little bit more service right now. As Tim said before, this is a world where you get your capital $1 at a time. You don't go out looking for the easy big bucks. And I think you're going to have to get it from the people you're already doing business with.
Izzy and Coco, what about your ability to raise money in this environment? What are you doing in terms of financing? Are you self-funding it all? Have you had to go and borrow money from a bank recently, or even family members?
Yes. Yes, well, first of all, we've cut expenses, which was the first thing. And then we went to our banker. We have a really good relationship with our banker, Union Bank. We've been with them for 14 years, and we established a line of credit in the very beginning. So when you do have a slow season and you pay that back right away, we've gained their trust. So when we do go to them, they take great care of us. So you should know your banker by name. You should meet with them often and just check in and let them know any new projects, any new accounts that you got. They really look at that, and they come in and see how we're doing, and it's wonderful.
And it's good to not overspend. For example, last year we started, scaling back on staff and really watching our expenses. So, knock on wood, things are going really well.
Tim, I loved your point about how they start out with $300. The business, therefore, is lean from the beginning. I mean, we're seeing, even with the companies you mentioned, the GEs, the Procter & Gambles, all they're doing is cost-cutting now these days, right? Because they've just blown up too big. So it's really nice to start from the beginning really lean.
Yeah, and they're also looking for new ways to operate. And so by looking for new ways to operate, it gives entrepreneurs the opportunity to also use them as potential customers.
Billy, real quick before we go to a break, do you help your dad stay cool and on the cutting edge? Because no offense, but the way that we communicate and interact with each other on the internet is changing so quickly. It's got to be nice to have this guy around.
Actually, just yesterday we were talking about, I started helping with his blog. He wants to make his blog look cooler and hipper and, track the users, the visitors, so I helped him a little bit with that. It's really funny that you brought that up.
I think that's really cool, actually.
He does a lot more than that, actually. He's way out there on the cutting edge with his own business. He's got his blog, BillyDraper.com.
Which I was reading this morning. I was actually listening to some of his music.
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
He's got 2,000 downloads. Hopefully he'll get more now.
But, if we get a chance, we got to talk about how the entertainment world, and the music business at least, is changing dramatically, because you don't need a record label anymore. You can get your music out there with all the social networking out there, all the product out there.
On that note, Mark Suster, our VC in the Next Hour, tweeted this past week about how the new cutting-edge entrepreneur is the musician. So,
GarageBand, I learned about that, right?
Right.
GarageBand on your computer. Yeah. More answers to your questions ahead, so keep those calls and emails coming. We are here for you. We're having a good time on Saturday morning. Actually, Saturday afternoon in New York, Saturday morning on the West Coast.
Coming up, we have The Pitch. Meet some young guns who want to take on American Idol. Live right from the heart of New York City, your questions, your money, your business here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Dagan McDowell. This is Tracy Burns. But we are coast to coast from New York to California. That's where Dani Babb and John Rutledge are. The Tiani sisters of Surf Diva. And then he's here in the city with his son, Tim Draper. Thank you so much for being here. Billy Draper.
Pleasure.
But right now, Rick is on the phone from California. Rick, go ahead. Good to hear from you. What do you want to know?
Hi, my name is Rick. I own a small termite company in Southern California, Monrovia, California. And in the last 4 years, because of the economy, people are just not buying termite work. So I'm $150,000 in debt where I was debt-free 4 years ago. Does the SBA or anyone have any special programs for small companies? They usually want 10 or 15% down payment on an SBA loan, but is there any programs out there for me? I pay my bills on time at work, but I am struggling.
Dani, there is, isn't there?
Yeah, the good news, Rick, is that you're an established business because new businesses are the hardest ones to get income for right now, as we've been finding out, helping an entrepreneur do that. So there is some good news for you. Check out the Express loan. Check out the Community Express loan. And if you have military service, check out the Patriot loan. They are out there. We've found some new sources of capital that we mentioned last week. I'll bring up again. One of them is Prosper.com. These are peer-to-peer lending, so the interest rate might be a little bit higher, but if you don't get something from the SBA, check it out. LendingClub.com and Loanio, Loanio.com. And then if you're turned down by the SBA or by banks, check out the Fox Valley Micro Loan Fund. You have to basically come in there with some sort of letter of denial from a bank or from the SBA and from an SBA-backed loan, and they'll take a second look at your information.
And there's also, Rick, more than one way to skin that cat on the down payment, all the way from earning it $1 at a time on yard sales, but you can also borrow money. And this will be illegal, so take this with a grain of salt. But you can borrow money off of a credit card, recycle it through your life, and have it show up as a down payment on an SBA loan, and voila, you've got 10 times the leverage on it.
I don't think that's illegal.
No,
but, you know,
it depends on whether there's a bank involved.
If John said it is, it's illegal.
Yeah, seriously, that scares me. Coco and Izzy, I want to throw this out to you. If people are cutting back on roach extermination, which I'd starve my children before I cut back on that. I would, man, they gross me out. What are you seeing as far as your business goes? Are people still coming? I mean, the economy's tight. I would think surf lessons are probably the first thing to go.
Well, what's really great is that people are still looking to have fun. It's a big stress relief, and I think in these times, it's really important to find balance in your life. So one thing that we've heard, for example, our gym memberships are up, and people doing things, amusement parks, but especially something that you're doing for yourself. Surf lessons, surfing is a great sport to do because you're in nature and you're relaxed and you don't worry about all those things that make us worry these days.
I'm trying to segue delicately, and it's not going to work. But Tim, space travel, though. SpaceX and investment there. Elon
Another
Musk.
Stress reliever.
Right. Yeah, I've interviewed people who've taken space flights who've been space tourists, so it does happen. But your investment there with Elon Musk, who was one of the early investors in PayPal, was that one of the driving considerations? Who is behind the business and idea?
Well, Elon Musk is really one of the great national treasures or international global treasures of our world. He's been a founder of PayPal, a founder of Tesla, the electric car that goes faster than all the Porsches.
No, a friend of mine just took delivery of one in the last week.
Amazing.
It took him 3 years. He waited 3 years to get it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Worth the wait. And then SpaceX. And SpaceX is a profitable NASA. The idea is they can launch these rockets into space with real payloads and do it at a fraction of the cost that NASA sends them up there for. And so they are now a customer of NASA's. And they end up, the company is very large and growing, and they just had 2 successful payloads go up in a row, and so the company's rocking and rolling.
I love that you're involved in this because I do think that we've let this whole space exploration go by the wayside. We need math and science majors here in our country. Girls need to be studying math and science. I'll get off my soapbox.
Girl power.
I'll get off my soapbox.
Izzy and Coco, give us a girl power.
I was a math major. To all the dorky math majors out there. More answers to your questions ahead.
Up next, everybody's favorite segment, The Pitch. We're going to meet young entrepreneurs who want to catch a rising star.
Graphic on the whole network. I love that thing. Welcome back. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network.
You ready? It's time for The Pitch. Our entrepreneur wants to give people a chance to become a star. Joining us is Ben Aronson, one of the creators of Breaking Through, to tell us, not us, about your idea. Tim Draper is here. How often, one of the most famous venture capitalists ever, and his son, who is in the music business, is also here. Billy Draper. So, Ben, pitch away.
All right, so Breaking Through is a new total 360-degree marketing platform for music. We put together 4 genre-specific showcases. The first one was the other night, sponsored by VH1 Save the Music, as well as Millennium Prime and Sprite Green. So we've attracted big-name sponsors, and what we do is we bring in top executives, not A&Rs, top executives in music, fashion, entertainment, marketing, because we want to get these people signed to the deals that will make them money. We bring in the top executives and then a floor of consumers to release the newest artists and the hottest people in these genres. So we did pop R&B, then we have rock, unplugged, and hip-hop. We're going to pull a winner from each for the finals, which will be in January. And the winner doesn't get railroaded into an American Idol record deal that locks them in for the next 10 years of their life. What they get is the exposure. We're going to get them a spot to open in a genre-specific major concert. We're going to film a music video for them, get them major press and a spot to perform on a late-night television show that will depend on what music genre they're in. And starting in September, as a way of really getting this going, we've filmed everything for a reality series. What the real struggles are in breaking through in the music industry. Not every rapper was a drug dealer. Not every country star got run out by their parents. You know, there are real stories to these people. They have kids and lives, etc. And most people want to see that. That's why, you know, when you get into the later episodes of Project Runway, and Kevin Christiana from Project Runway was one of our sponsors, you know, the great thing is that you get to see what it's like to have real support systems or to not have them and have to do this at night, etc.
Okay, so I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Throw me a curveball.
Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing it?
I mean, you got MySpace, you got American Idol, you got GarageBand, you got all these other things out there, and so there's a lot of competition. But I do know that there's BillyDraper.com. My daughter is also on Valley Girl online. She created a webisode. They're looking for exposure, but there seem to be a lot of options for them.
Well, nobody's connected the dots start to finish. Starting in the fall, we'll actually be doing online sales as our voting method. So utilizing a widget called the Bismo, created by the people who created Groove Mobile, world-renowned. We're going to do online sales, which will track. That will be the voting system. So when the artist makes money, which they get 85% of all the revenues, then they get to make it to the showcase, and then they get exposure from the reality show, the showcase where they have the top executives there, and then if they win, they get more exposure. So the idea is, why do this? We've connected the dots. iTunes is just a sales model. MySpace is just a social networking that has a concert tour now, but nobody is really aimed at the artists. And I wanted to do it because they need this exposure.
So why do you personally care about this?
Why does
it matter to you? Why is it in your heart?
I started a marketing agency called Tao Experience. I opened up a talent wing, and I wanted to get my artists exposure. And rather than shopping them to individual labels, which seemed sort of pointless and to take too much time, I said, well, I want to bring them to us. And I grew up being a very altruistic person. I had a great family. And I said, well, why don't we come up with a concept that will connect it all the way through? The money will be there in the long term with the TV show, with the sponsors for the events. And then we were so impressed by VH1's effort with us, and they were so impressed as well, that they just agreed to be our partners through the next 4 shows. And they're so excited. Denise Dykes, called me just ecstatic after the event. We had such buzz, celebrities there. Everyone loves the idea of giving a total platform from sales to TV, performance, and then on.
Okay, so we cheated a little. We went to your site. I also checked it out on some of the ratings, and you don't have much traffic.
Yes.
So here's Billy. He's a rap star, or getting to be. And why is this attractive to him?
The reason,
Billy, why don't you ask? Why is this attractive to you?
Yeah, so why would, okay, so how do I get to the show? You said there's a showcase. So how does the musician get featured in the showcase?
The musician gets featured in the showcase right now for the next 3 shows of this year by sending in all of their performance video. We've actually had record labels send us artists that they're looking at. We've had tons of contact through our VP of Tao Talent, DJ Betancourt and Almond Jones, who are just in touch with everything viral. And everyone comes to us and they've submitted everything. And for these first shows, we focus on not just great music, but great performances, because that's what owns a crowd. And really, performance is where artists make their money now. Everyone wants concert money. iTunes and downloads, it's a very small percentage of what artists make. But eventually, as I said, we'll take the top 3 downloaded sales, so you make money by selling your music. Now your fans have an incentive, rather than voting online for American Idol or any of these other things, they have an incentive to buy your music. You want to be on Breaking Through? Sell your song. Download 1 song. And that's why you should do it. And
how do you guys make your money?
We make money through some of the sponsorship, even though we give a good portion of VH1 Save the Music to ensure there will be a future Breaking Through artist. You know, music programs are very important, but we'll make it through the television production. We make it through the sponsorship, and a very small piece, less than 5% of the downloaded sales.
So how do you compete with these big guys? How do you compete with MySpace? How do you compete with...
All MySpace...
I mean, MySpace is a pretty easy way to get your music out there.
But MySpace's problem is the fact that, A, they have a ton of negativity surrounding them. Why do you think Facebook took over?
MySpace owned by News Corp, our parent company. We had to say that.
Well,
we just had to say that. Just
it's okay, keep going.
But the fact of the matter is even MySpace hasn't come up with a solid marketing platform.
I didn't mention that other one.
Right.
MySpace has not connected the dots from sales to performance and in line for the unknown artists. And that's what we're doing. We're saying, let's give all of these unknown artists a chance to get to the next level and make money while you're doing it.
Right. All right, Tim and Billy, give him the final word.
Well, wait, how much money are you looking for?
Yeah.
We need less than $100,000 to just get our website to where it needs to be. That's the only component missing. We have the sales model built by the Bismo, which is already 100% functional and has millions of dollars behind it. We just need our website updated.
$100,000, we should point out, is not venture capital money, but
no,
still
actually, we do have a garage program that looks at investments sub $1 million, and this would be something that we would consider.
Okay,
it is a lot of
competition.
Well, the verdict is I would need to know a lot more, but it's very interesting. I do think that the artists somehow need to be able to connect to their audience as directly as possible. I'm not sure if you don't become just a feature of MySpace. And what do you think, Billy?
I mean, I agree. I think it's important for the user to, even if it's not the case, that the user should feel like they're connected to the artist and somehow, and you're putting a little bit of a buffer between the two, which is potentially worth it.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. The venture capital that we would seek, and I heard you say the less money you can do it for, the better. Mm-hmm. I don't need to spend money willy-nilly. You know, I can get it done for what I need to get it done. The idea is for the artist to be able to upload their content, not fight the barriers you need to get on iTunes. So if the artist, with our website redone, they can upload their music to the Bismo right now.
By the way, the small amount was more attractive to me than if he were asking for a larger amount, because it might end up being something that MySpace ends up buying or whatever, and for our garage program, we're somewhat comfortable with that.
Well, I'm glad you cleared up that misconception, because very often people say, that's not venture capital money. That's not venture. That's too small. That's too small. But I'm glad that crystal.
No, we like to look at them very early. We like DFJ. We like to look at them very early.
I mean, and it makes sense. Why not? Touch as many things as you can. Ben Aronson.
Thank you very much, guys.
Great, thanks.
How was his, wait, before we go, how was his pitch, just in general, his delivery?
Actually, he does a nice job in being on the spot on TV. I think he did a really, really nice job.
Well, thank you very much. Your son did very well.
You need to get on. Then we'll come watch.
Ben, actually, well, Ben, thank you for being here. Billy, we got to play some of Billy's music because I was listening to it this morning, so we'll see if we can pull that off the internet.
Let's hear it. You can be on the next show.
Go listen to it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Wait till you
Ben
hear it.
Aronson, breaking through.
right.
Go check out the website. And remember, if you have an idea that you want to pitch to a venture capitalist, let us know about it. It could be the opportunity of a lifetime. Heck, this just was for Ben, I got to tell you, because Tim Draper, man, you don't get any better than that. You tell us the product, and we find the person with the money. So email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com, and you could be pitching your idea here with us next week. All right, we still have plenty of time for your calls.
877-249-9626 or yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. Next hour's pitch, we're calling all the dogs.
Including hers.
Yeah, my dog's going to be here. Ramon will be
Ramon.
here. We'll tell you how you can pamper your pooch. You don't want to miss that. Stay with us, everybody. This, is the Fox Business Network, where we're open for business, broadcasting even on a Saturday, and we are more than happy to be here. We are incredibly excited. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns.
Having a good 2 hours and 40 minutes in. It's flying. All right, we got to reintroduce our panel. Coco and Izzy Tiani, the owners of Surf Divas Surfing School. I love it. Woo! Dani Babb and John Rutledge back. And Tim Draper, founder and managing director of DFJ. And, of course, his son, Billy Draper, aspiring rapper. You all got to check out his website, billydraper.com.
Yes.
I'm having a hard time sitting straight up. Sitting so close to Tim, I'm about to fall over. I'm just so excited he's here. I'm not kidding. And you too, Billy, no offense.
None taken.
All right, we're going to the phones. We got Charles from Missouri. Hey, Charles.
How are you?
Great. What's your question?
Well, you know, Obama wants to give easy credit for small businesses. What they should do is give tax relief for uncollectible bills that small businesses, you know, when I do a job and I don't get paid $5,000, it takes me $20,000 just to recoup that loss. All I can write off is the $5,000 worth of bad debt. It should be more money. The tax. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, John, it's a fair question. I think a lot of small businesses are feeling that these days.
Absolutely. Well, this is the other side of that shortage of working capital from banks we're talking about is your customers are also having trouble doing it. Customers have a hard time paying their bills. If you're waiting for someone in Washington to come along and with one paintbrush solve this problem, I think you're going to wait a long time. But right now, receivables and collections are a very big deal. And to the extent you can get paid up front, you can avoid a little bit of this cost by trying to get a little cash in the drawer, day one before you do a job.
Yeah, but one thing here, too, really quick, Charles, John mentioned a great idea and maybe offering a discount for people to pay a little bit more up front. But, you know, my accountant has actually said that the professional services fee that you're using to collect on that debt is deductible. So I would check with a second accountant if you're using one and find out if that's really not the case.
I believe that's deductible also, yeah.
Right, as a professional services fee. So check that out. It may be more deductible than you think.
Right.
Miscellaneous itemized deduction, though, right? Subject to 2% of your AGI. I'm not a tax dork or anything. On the phone.
Do you want, because you were sitting when Charles called in, Tim was sitting here shaking his head.
Well, I thought it was kind of an interesting idea, but it might be subject to a lot of fraud, and it would be pretty easy to say, hey, buddy, just bill me. You won't have to pay me, and the government will pay. And that could end up being a problem. But I like the creativity behind it, and I think that there really need to be other ways to get money into the hands of small businesses. I think that's critical.
What are your ideas? I think the government needs all the help they can get at this point.
Well, I tend to feel like the government should back off. When they put more money in, what happens is you end up with all these other hooks. You have regulations. You have, in fact, each of the initiatives that they've put forth, they've put in a little hook, a little regulation to tell us to make sure that we're hiring a certain type of American worker, or we have to do certain thing. And those kinds of regulations can actually, they seem good on the outside, on the front of it, but they end up hurting our economy overall, making the U.S. a lot less competitive than a lot of other countries.
But I want just before, sorry, Tracy, but how viable would clean tech investments be if not for government incentive?
Okay, this is great. I have a very good friend who runs a company called eMeter. eMeter was doing perfectly well. They were a clean tech company. It was a smart grid company, doing incredibly well. And then the initiative came forward, and all of their customers froze because they wanted to see what the government would do.
This is what I was just going to say.
And their business went and crashed, and they had to go get money from venture capitalists so that they could keep their company alive during this time while all their customers are sitting there waiting for the government to do something.
With energy and cap and trade.
It's like the cleanest tech company that you could imagine.
But that's what I was just going to say. Is everything they're doing pushing businesses out? Well, one, halting them. Two, will it push them just out of this country altogether eventually?
Absolutely. The more regulations you put in here, the less likely a business will want to start here. And we are it's very easy for us to start a business in another country now. The geographic borders have all fallen because of, Hotmail and Skype, and we can all communicate with each other all over the world. So we can start businesses pretty much anywhere in the world, and we will go to the country that is the easiest to start a business.
Are you already starting to see that happen?
And that is no longer the U.S.
Are you already starting to see that happen?
I am already starting to see that happen. That is happening all over the place. And where companies have their choice, well, do we start in the U.S.? The U.S. on the margin is still a better country to start a business than most other countries. But you can see a real outflow of,
but you're saying on the margin,
great entrepreneurs.
That's awful. That margin, we're going to lose that margin.
Yeah, we used to have a big margin.
But it doesn't help that our corporate tax rate is the second highest in the free world right now, next to Japan. So why wouldn't you start somewhere else? I mean, we've talked before about starting your business in Florida.
We're from California, where the tax rates are
so
even higher because we have to pay for the state
spend. But businesses are still starting there because that's where the talent is it not?
Well, they have been there, but we're kicking the talent out because we're not giving. I mean, if somebody goes to Stanford and they graduate with a master's in electrical engineering, you probably want to keep them here in the U.S. But what happens is they can't get an H-1B visa. They can't get a visa to stay, and so then they're kicked out of the country. And
so they go back home.
And they go back home. I was talking to the president of Micron Computing. Micron is the last remaining memory device company in this country. Okay, memory, the thing that
important.
Right. We'll have to go back to the string around your finger kind of memory. But he was talking about that he is being picked on in all sorts of ways by our government, and maybe it was started with Sarbanes-Oxley and then it moved on, but it's like he just keeps getting picked on. He may actually move that memory company out of this country, and he is completely frustrated by the way this all operates, and he can't get H-1B visas. They look at CEOs. They're looking at CEOs like they're criminals. They're the greatest men women that we have, and surf divas.
Right.
They're the greatest we've got, and we want to keep them, and we want them to be heroes here. They are heroes. They are absolute heroes. If they start businesses that become big and successful over time, they are heroes, and we should make them heroes.
Tim, you just put faces and names on something that is debated very often in the abstract.
Right.
But the effects of government and greater government and bigger government. Thank you for that. We still have time left in this hour. But next hour, we're going to the dogs. What are all these dogs missing? They're just not cool enough.
They're missing clothes that are more expensive than my children's.
But somebody's here who's trying to make money dressing up your pet like Paris Hilton. We will be right back. Stay with us.
welcome back. Your questions, your money. We're going to jump right to the phones. We got Steve from California. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning. Listen, I hear you guys talking about Patriot loans, and I asked Wells Fargo about these loans last week. Mm-hmm. They had no idea what I was talking about.
Well, you've come to the right place because Dani Babb does.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, Steve. First of all, I would hit up a community bank. I would go to, since you're in California, California United Bank and Lending. So I would start there. The Patriot loan has a max of $500,000. The price of the loan is 2.25% over the prime rate. It's for veterans, active duty, reserves, guards, or their spouse. And it's a 7-year loan with a 36-hour turnaround for approval. That it's backed by the SBA. But check out California United Bank and Lending. I think you're going to have a little bit better luck than you will with Wells Fargo.
Great. Thank you very much.
Coco and Izzy, we want to get some final thoughts from you ladies. Some words of inspiration.
Well, we know it's tough out there, but you really have to just be creative and find that niche that's not being serviced. And one thing that's coming up for us, we see in the future, is stand-up paddleboarding. And it's not huge yet on the mainland. In Hawaii, they're 5 years ahead of us. But it's a sport that people can do anywhere on flat water and lakes, bays, rivers. And for us, we're looking at ways to expand our stand-up paddleboarding, also called SUP. We've called our school What's Up, and it's the future for us. So we found another niche, and we just keep moving forward, and we're not giving up. We're just staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah, like Izzy's saying, it's important when you do your business to, this is our 14th year doing this, and we have over 60 surf instructors and 25 staff in the office and the shop. So it's a constant growing process where you're constantly thinking and looking at trends and out in the water, out in the field, seeing what people want to do and really filling that niche.
And loving what you do. We get out there every day on the beach, in the water, surfing, paddleboarding. It's got to be something you really enjoy and that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And our motto at Surf Divas, what we use, we always tell our girls and our guys, it's the best surfer in the water is the one having the most fun.
And that goes for on land, too.
In unison.
I love it.
Yeah. Yes. Inspiration.
Oh, go get them, entrepreneurs. Keep surfing. Keep entertaining. I think this is a really great time for you to start a business. I think this is the best time in our lifetimes that you ever could have to start a business because people are open to new suggestions. So if you want to lead this world into a new direction, take it into a new direction. And then go visit BillyDraper.com.
Oh, you're a good agent.
And absolutely. And then my
Non-stop.
daughter, go visit my daughter's site, valleygirlonline.com.
So good.
She's
but the
about to
upshot is that what you said is there's money. Even if you only need a little bit, there's money.
There is money, and take smaller amounts and figure out what to do with smaller amounts of money.
What business shouldn't people start?
Well, I would encourage them to think very creatively. I would not start anything that's already out there.
Home builders.
Start something that's new. Because I think it's time for new things. We're looking for a replenishment.
But do you see that
starts.
often? Do you see that fairly often? People are kind of, they're not
Getting out of the box.
Right, they're kind of
Yeah, they're
not
pushing.
pushing.
They've got to push the edge, and they've got to be willing to be unpopular with their friends, and they've got to be willing to try new things. And if they know in their heart it's the right thing to do, then they should go do it.
It's like Surf Diva.
I'm going surfing.
The guy, you know.
You're coming surfing.
I'm coming.
Surfdiva.com.
Yeah, thank you. Paddleboarding is where Tracy needs to start, trust me.
Yes.
Ladies,
take
let's
paddleboarding.
quickly thank everybody. First, the Tiani sisters, Coco and Izzy. What an incredible story. Tim and
Thank
Billy
you.
Draper. Incredible advice. This was a real treat, father and son. And Dani and John, they're not going anywhere. Neither are we. Stay with us. Hi, everyone. everybody. Welcome to Your Questions, Your Money, Your Business. I'm Dagan McDowell along with Tracy Burns. And we want to hear from you. We're still talking about stimulating this economy by one person at a time, by going out, doing your own thing, starting a business, figuring out a way to grow it, and just being inspired, being fired up, because we are, by every story that we hear every Saturday.
And it's snack time here at Your Questions, Your Money.
No, actually not.
Well, no, we're going to look at it.
It's a little tease.
Yeah.
You can't.
You're right.
Sorry. It's an alcohol-based snack.
I know. So after the show, it's snack time. Pour more coffee, put down the coffee, do what you got to do. Just get on the phone and call us, 877-249-9626. You can always email us, yourmoney@foxbusiness.com.
Okay, so we teased his desserts, but now more on them. Our next guest makes desserts for adults. Sorry, children. Brett Birnbaum is the president and co-founder of Wine Cellar Sorbets. And Brett, Tracy and I are already inspired by your story, and we haven't even heard it directly from you because, again, you're really kind of after Tracy's heart because you worked in the consulting industry after going to college and getting your MBA at NYU. You were working in IT consulting, right?
Systems consulting.
So you were working 24/7 with Anderson Consulting. I worked with Ernst & Young. I know exactly what you're paying.
So take us from there to wine sorbets.
Well, I went from 24/7 consulting now to 28/8 with my own business.
Clearly.
Let me tell you, the hours I did consulting are nothing compared to running this business and starting this business really scratch from nothing. The background is that I was always looking to do something on my own. I was in the consulting area. I was very big into technology. And quite frankly, I kind of grew up in the dot-com boom. And I always thought I'd do something in IT. But as I was growing and as I was getting experience, I love food and I love wine. And just so happened, my best friend that I grew up with from Flushing, Queens, that's where I'm from, he became a fabulous chef. And long story short, while I was getting my MBA, I was living in Brooklyn just as the food boom was really picking up there. And I thought, hey, this would be a great time to get in. And I called Dave and said, hey, Dave, move back to New York with me. Let's start a wine bar restaurant. We're both into it. You're a great chef. And he said, great. And we started going on that road. And we were literally a day away from signing a lease on a space for a restaurant. And kind of, it's a blessing and a curse. But that was taken. I called the landlord to sign a lease, and it was gone when I called. And so we started looking again, and Dave just one day said, hey, you know what I can make for the menu? It's this wine sorbet. And the light bulb went off. And I said, really? Wine sorbet? That sounds fabulous. I love wine. I love dessert. I'm like, wouldn't that be a great dessert? He said, that would be a great thing for the restaurant. And I said, hold your horses. I did a little research, realized nobody's done this before. No one's done it on the retail level. I called him back and said, you know what, Dave? Forget about a wine bar. Let's be the Ben & Jerry's of the wine world. And and so that's really what we set out to do. We scrapped the business plan for the restaurant, and we put together a business plan for a brand of new wine cellar. It's called Wine Cellar Sorbets. We started looking for a new type of space. We found a space in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, where we converted an old plumbing warehouse into an ice cream manufacturing plant. And we did that by ourselves. It literally took us about a year, and we launched the product in about February of 2006. And since we launched, now we've gone through a lot of changes and lessons, and it's been a wild ride. But now we're in about 300 retail locations, including Whole Foods, Fresh Markets, Wegmans, some really top-name accounts. So we've been really fortunate in the last, I would say, 12 months to finally starting to hit a stride of growth and acceptance in the market. So it's been a pretty wild ride, though.
Are you in restaurants as well?
We are in some restaurants. We're definitely available for the food service type of market. Now, since we are a tiny company, and when I tell you we're tiny, 5 of us do everything, from the production to the sales to the marketing and so on and so forth.
Who created the recipes then for this?
Dave is, like I said, we started the business together. He's
Dave
the chef.
Zablocki.
Dave Zablocki, yep. He's the chef. And he and I, we'd be in that kitchen while we were building our factory. He's the main force behind the recipes, and we were just like mad scientists in that kitchen working on that formulation. And honestly, it was a lot of trial and error. We had nothing to compare this product to in the market already. So working with wine, working in the wine world, for finding our suppliers was a challenge because it's not a standardized type of input. It's wine. It varies. It's an art, not a science about the flavors. And then working to figure out the proper formulations. If you'll see when you taste our sorbets, well, we were saying about the alcohol in there, part of what we had to do was remove almost all the alcohol. When we first started the company, actually the alcohol content was a little bit higher, but we were running into regulatory problems on state-by-state basis. Yeah, absolutely. And again, since it was such a new product and a new idea, nobody really knew how to deal with it. No one could give us a straight answer. But what we found was we decided that we needed to go to basically a non-alcoholic version.
Okay, hold that thought.
Okay.
We just have to take a breath because it's 6 minutes after the hour, and we want to welcome our radio listeners on Sirius and XM. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dagan McDowell, along with Tracy Burns.
And if you have a question about starting your own small business, working on your current business, anything entrepreneurial, we want to hear from you. Email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. You can always call us 877-249-9626.
We're talking to Brett Birnbaum of Wine Cellar Sorbet. Brett, I'll let you finish your thought because I interrupted you so rudely.
Basically, because it was such a new product, it was getting that formulation correct. And we've, this year we've launched our new packaging, new look. With it, our expansion has been great.
How do you? Okay, so wines vary.
Yes.
Not all wine is the same. How
Absolutely.
then do you keep? How do you keep the consistency? Because really, to me, the wine is the big variable, right?
Absolutely. But to us, that is what makes us special because food is a variable. Real food requires someone who knows and has a great palate to find the wine. And part of that, why this is not easy to copy is because the skill to find the proper wines with the proper qualities, year to year, vintage to vintage, wine region to wine region from around the world is a challenge. So we use that as part of our marketing, that wine varies from year to year. And our Cabernet one year might be a little drier and a little bit earthier, and the next year it might be a little fruitier and a little bit more.
And you're okay with that? You're okay.
We love that. We're about. If you're really about wine,
right.
If you're truly a wine lover, you're gonna know that there's a little bit of inconsistency, or I should say inconsistency. I should say variation, because wine varies. And if you love,
do I know?
There's no alcohol in this.
There's 0.5%, so it's technically non-alcohol.
Okay. So do I know what wines you're using? Like, is there a certain? Does it say somewhere?
Well, yes. Well, they're varietal-based wines. So Cabernet Sauvignon is all the main ingredient is Cabernet Sauvignon. The rosé is all rosé. The main ingredient is that actual wine. We literally are buying.
What wine vineyards are you using?
We don't
tell us.
We don't say that right now because someday down the line, what we'd like to do, and when our brand is growing and we've gotten the market share and the brand recognition, is to start working with some of the the well-known wineries and start doing co-branding type of situations, because we feel like this is a great way for wineries to bring their wine into a new section of the store, in the freezer. A whole new set of eyes looking at their brand.
Right. I want to know, though, where did you get the money to start all of this? How? Because again, that's more of the business question. You're kind of the business guy.
Yeah,
Dave's your chef.
No, Dave's a chef. Well, it was self-funded. We started, actually, Dave, myself, and actually a third friend that we grew up with. He was a silent partner. Since then, we've gone through a friends and family round, and honestly, that's a really difficult thing right now. I was listening to the show. There's lots of callers that are expressing the same concerns that even we are concerned with. It's cash flow. And unfortunately, we're from blue-collar families. My parents were public school teachers. We don't have a lot of family fortune to keep things going, so we're constantly looking for investors. Part of my job is to find people out there, wealthy individuals, from angels to VCs, who have an interest in wine and the food market, which is actually it's a great market in this country. The gourmet specialty market is growing. So cash flow and keeping those books and keeping the engines running is probably one of my biggest challenges.
Are you doing
now.
Okay, though?
It's tough, definitely. We are definitely looking for investors, but we're doing well in the sense that the brand is starting to be recognized. The more I'm out there, I hear people say, I've tried your sorbets, they're fabulous. I get random emails from customers, and that's, honestly, I always say, if you want to start a business, have a lot of pride in what you're starting, because it's going to get rough. Right. And what gets me through some of those days when it's really tough is that I'll just get a random email from a random fan and say, thank you for making this product. It's really great. I use it, show it to all my friends, keep it going. And I got to tell you, reinvigorates you. You know, it gets you going, and it's you have to be a zealot.
Well, you've invigorated us because, again, the more you talk about what you do, the more of your passion that we're seeing. So we're excited that you're here the entire hour.
Oh, no.
Speaking of funding.
Yeah.
We have a VC on the show, so Brett, get yourself ready.
Yeah.
I just want to welcome the other people who are going to be with us for the remainder of this hour, talking about growing your business. Our venture capitalist, he's back with us, Mark Suster, a partner with GRP Partners. He's going to be fielding another pitch later in the hour. He also has some tips on whether your business is VC ready. Also, Dani Babb is here with the Babb Group, and John Rutledge of Rutledge Capital. They have not gone anywhere, and Brett is staying with us for this whole hour. Do you want to get to an email? You want to do an email, or you want to ask something to Brett? Well, you can go ahead.
All right, now,
you want me to talk? You eat. I'll talk.
All right. First, we go to the email. We got a small business. He says that has been open almost 3 years. We're not making a profit, and we're losing $500 a month. How do you decide when to cease operations? We're not taking a salary right now, and we've got over $100,000 invested, and we hate to see it fail. John, this question comes up a lot. How do you know when to throw in the towel?
As late as possible is the answer. You know, Brett said, and also Tim last hour, when you start a business, it's not a job; it's your life. And the question is that the life you want to live, and how hard are you willing to fight for it, and do you want to give up on it? You know, and I think everybody who has their own business 100 times has gone through the, you know, do I have to quit? Do I have to stop doing this? And if the idea of going to work in a cubicle doesn't appeal to you compared to having your own business, then you give it one more try. But it is very tough out there to get money and to get cash flow, and I really feel for you this money losing business. You've got to find a way to get your business cash positive.
I can hear you,
Dani.
Yeah, well, the thing that sticks out to me in this email from Jason is $500 a month, because you know $500 is basically is something you can cut out by changing your cell phone plan. So I'm not sure that you can, you know, that $500 would be worth throwing in the towel. And I'm sorry, there may be some audio problems here on my end.
No. But Dani, I know you've actually, and I'm sorry, I'm going to say this out there. You got a bunch of businesses that went down on you, right? So you in a lot of ways, you learn a lot from failure as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in many cases, I've learned a lot more from the failures than I have from the successes.
You always do.
Yeah, and you know, $500 not that much for people who have receivables. It's not that difficult to actually get loans right now against receivables. The bank I mentioned earlier, California United Bank and Lending, they're lending up to $2 million against inventory. So if this particular business has inventory, that's something to potentially tap. And then also peer-to-peer lending is a way to survive in the market.
Mark, I want your advice before we take a break.
Sure. Well, let me just pick up on Dani's point first. If it is as simple as a cell phone plan, there's a great website called billshrink.com, which can actually reduce your cell phone bills. But let me try to offer a counter view to John's.
We're going to have him on. We're going to have the founder of Bill Shrink on actually in in a week or two. So I want go ahead.
Oh, Peter Pham's a great friend and a great guy. You should definitely have him on. And I don't want to contradict what John's saying, because there is some accuracy to what he's saying. But let me say the following. I think some entrepreneurs make the opposite mistake, which is this. When you go into a business, you have this passion and this dream for what you're going to create. And you only really know what it becomes when you're on the inside and you've been doing it for a few years. You're the best person who's positioned to figure out whether or not this business actually can grow. And 2 or 3 years into a business, sometimes you realize that what you thought was going to happen doesn't happen. So another mistake that I see people make is when you realize it's not a business that can grow and you aren't going to be able to earn profits, they stick with it for too long. Once you've learned to be an entrepreneur, if you got into the wrong idea, don't be afraid to call it quits and work on your next idea, and it might be a better idea, and start from scratch.
A quick break.
But remember, you can also tweak out your idea and not necessarily have to completely fold in the towel. So for people considering that, look at how you can tweak it out or maybe adapt it to the new marketplace.
A quick break. So much more to talk about. 45 minutes of your questions about your business. Keep the calls and emails a-coming.
Call us 877-249-9626. You can always email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com. We're up. We're having fun. We got 45 minutes left on this Saturday, so get in touch.
Sorry, Tracy's busy. She's eating wine cellar sorbet, and it is delicious. It is delicious.
Thank you.
The Cabernet. Actually, the Rosé, too.
And that is our special guest this hour, sitting over here going, yeah.
And there's
Brett
no
Birnbaum.
alcohol. No
Half
alcohol.
a percent.
A little bit.
A little bit.
Brett Birnbaum, wine cellar sorbet, is
I'm having
here.
one more.
Our entrepreneur this hour. Mark Suster's here from GRP Partners out in Cali. And then Dani Babb and John Rutledge they're excited wherever they are. And we're excited that Erica has called in. Erica is on the line, calling from Cali as well. Erica, go ahead, ask your question.
Okay. First of all, it's Eric and not Erica.
Sorry. That was in the prompter. It's my bad.
Can't be helped.
No worries. Ask your question,
You
Jeff.
didn't even need to say that for the tone in your voice. We kind of figured there was an extra vowel on the end of that one. Go ahead.
So. Okay. No, I was thinking of starting a small cigar lounge, and I was just wondering if it's a good time with the economy to do something like that. Small cigar lounge with like some large screen TVs and pool table and things like that. And just if it's a good time, and also if investors, how does that work? I mean, how I might not need them, but I just wonder how that works.
Dani Babb. Because I think
Well,
I hear cigar in California and I hear regulatory issues, but go ahead.
Well, there are some, but here, Eric, here's some good news. Check out entrepreneur.com. I was reading an article the other day about the percentage increase in businesses that are considered luxury businesses, but are still doing really well. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's about a 2% increase this year over last year. Given that the market's gone down in general for luxury goods, it actually bodes well for your business. I'll throw the investment question over here to John, but in terms of whether it's a doable item or something that I would go for in this market, absolutely.
Well, Dani, Erica did not say they were going to light those cigars. He just said they were going to have them there. You know, the truth is, I think that business could be a real hit. There could be a market depending on your local demographics in the town where you're going to do this, because it's going to be a very local business. And if you can do that, this is, however, a very tough time to get an investor to do it. I'd be looking to do that for as little money up front as possible. You know, get the pool tables on consignment, get the TVs on credit. Use somebody's rent, the building they've already rented, that you're going to give them a piece of your revenues. You know, you're not going to get money from other people, so you need to do it sort of on the dollar at a time.
And look to peer-to-peer lending, and like John's talking about, there's so much equipment out there on Craigslist. I don't know what city in California you're looking at doing this in, but there's so much equipment out there on Craigslist, eBay, and so on. Get it cheap, and then when you go to negotiate, if you're going to work on a lease in a building, try to negotiate an escalating lease where build-out costs are actually built into the lease, and you're not paying for the first 6 months.
Right.
Ben, I'm going to jump to you because I'm still eating sorbet too. But you were going to open a wine bar. I mean, you obviously thought there was an opportunity for that.
Yep. That type of business, it's a very localized business. Wine bar, reason why I wanted to do it where I was going to do it, it was in Williamsburg. As Williamsburg, Brooklyn has become hipper and hipper and more money was being funneled in. What this gentleman wants to do, what's really important for him is to know whether or not his neighborhood where he wants to open that is going to support that type of business. It's an interesting business. Like my sorbets, my dream is to be international, but we are going the national route. It has that, it has the ability to scale. He's doing something that's very, very localized. And also, but it is kind of similar because it is the micro luxury.
Mark, quickly, before we take a break.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think sometimes the nicest thing I can do is not be a cheerleader, but be the one who's really honest, because the biggest favor I can do to someone is not waste their time or money. I actually think it's not a great idea, and I think it's not a great idea because we had this big trend and this big fad, which was opening cigar bars, and they opened, I don't know, it was 10 years ago or so. Many of them came up and many of them disappeared. I think it's been done. I think it was a fad. And I'm sort of nervous that in this economy, which I don't think is going to get better anytime in the near future, it's a luxury item. So I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you have other great ideas out there, I would encourage you to look at some of your other ideas. The gentleman who's got the sorbet company, what's unique about you is you have the opportunity to go for national distribution. A cigar bar is going to be local by nature because it's retail.
Got to take a quick break. Shout out in the meantime to our radio listeners. Tracy's busy eating.
I'm still eating.
You can't see her, but she's enjoying herself. Not just because she's eating champagne sorbet, but because we're getting inspired by all these ideas we're hearing. Sirius Channel XM, it's 145. XM's on Channel 168. We are going to come right back, but we have another pitch. Find out why we're going to the dogs here on the Fox Business Network.
Because I'm eating on air. Happy Saturday. Welcome back. This is Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network. We're going to jump right to an email from Roger. Roger says, I heard the Treasury and the Energy Department are taking applications for green businesses. Where do I get more information about this? And what is the government's definition of green?
How much time do we have?
Seriously, I was just going to say that. Danny, let's throw this out to you.
Well, in terms of where you go to get the information, you go to mdba.gov and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And John can answer the rest of the question. Government's definition of green. It doesn't mean money, I know that.
Yeah, no, it's whatever Nancy Pelosi likes. That's the definition. That's the whole problem is we've left rule of law and we're in rule of big shot now. But there is a big push out of the government. But earlier we were asking Tim Draper, what are some businesses not to start? Mm-hmm. What a business not to start today is one that depends on the government for revenues and capital because they aren't going to be there for you. They'll leave you high and dry and you'll die. So, but I think the sources of information are just what Danny said. Go to the government website. They'll guide you in there, and maybe they'll have a couple of bucks. But beware that government as your big customer.
Mark, are you seeing ideas or businesses even changing because of what the government is doing or is not doing?
I think at the level that I'm investing, I'm not seeing that as much. But to comment on green and clean, I think it's a wonderful place to be investing. There's a fantastic company here in Los Angeles called Lear, which is doing clean lawnmowers and blowers. I think it's a fantastic company. We just invested in a pump storage project in Southern California. It has the capability to produce 8% of the total electricity needs of all of California. So there are great investments out there. But in terms of getting money from government at an early stage and getting handouts, I'm not an expert in that.
Okay, Mark, thank you. But you sit tight because you're an integral part of the next segment. Do you want to pamper your pooch? Finish reading.
You got to see the puppies here. They're dressed better than my kids. We've got an entrepreneur who has a dog of an idea, and I mean that in the best way. Stick around. The pitch is next. Look at these puppies. Is that like abuse? Is that abusive?
Hi, buddy.
Dog and
hi, sweetie.
But it won't pay the rental on your humble flat or.
I love that graphic. Welcome back to Your Questions, Your Money on the Fox Business Network. I'm Tracy Burns, along with Jacob McDowell. Look at this.
And Ramon.
Look.
This is Ramon, my dog, in my lap.
Wait, look.
And this pitch is near and dear to my heart. Today, we have a doozy of an idea. Jessica Blood has created Canine Couture Doggy Duds, high-end Doggy Duds. She is looking for money, for capital to really get her business off the ground. And Mark Suster from GRP Partners is sitting by. Jessica, just you go. I don't know if you can see, but Ramon is dressed in your garb. It's like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band for dogs. And Jessica, just go ahead and pitch your idea to Mark. We'll listen.
All right. Hello, I'm Jessica Blood, and I'm the founder of Jess & Co. Canine Couture. We are a clothing company that specializes in designing and manufacturing high-fashion luxury dog couture. My whole life, I've had a passion for two things, dogs and fashion. So a couple years back, when my sister had approached me to make some outfits for her little Yorkie, I thought, why not? This is actually Paris right here. She is the very first Jess & Co. model and client. I'm sorry.
No, Jessica, just tell us, just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Okay. So, through my experience in the industry working as a seamstress, I realized that there was a huge gap between the fashion world and the business world. And this is when I decided to apply and got accepted into the Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, which is currently ranked the #1 undergraduate program for entrepreneurship in the country. And I graduated last year, #1 in my class last year. And while I was in the program, the actual business plan I created was for the Jess & Co. label, and my two main focuses were controlling growth and testing the market, which I was able to do through our company website, jessandco.com. All of our tests have proven successful, and I realized there was a great opportunity, not only in the pet industry, but in the fashion couture industry as well. And when I graduated, I devoted all my time to starting and growing the Jess & Co. brand. My business plan currently has milestones of 5, 10, and 15 years, but basically our plan is to get into first-tier department stores such as Neiman, Saks, and Harrods in London. Of course, we have considered the possibility of additional lines in the future geared towards mass retailers, but right now our main focus is couture, and we have estimated that I will need approximately $1 to $2 million over the next few years to obtain this growth.
Mark, it's high-end, but certainly pet care and gear is a growing business. What do you think?
Well, listen, let me say, my mom not only has a Yorkie, she has 2 dogs. And they compete with her. They compete with my attention for my kids. So I think they're sort of her alternate grandkids. And you know, people are passionate about animals. They're passionate about dogs. They're members of their families. So this is a category people are really willing to spend money on. I would encourage you to think about staging your finance, not going straight for the $2 million. #1. #2, I would encourage you to think about online delivery platforms. So it is expensive to get into the Harrods and Selfridges and the Neiman Marcuses of the world. But one idea, there's a company called Dogster, dogster.com, and they have 1 million registered users. They get 20 million page views per month. And these are, I mean, that's your core market right there. Those are people who are logging on all the time, passionate about what it is you sell. And I bet there's the basis for a good partnership and distribution agreement.
I think that's a great idea.
Jessica, anything you want to ask Mark? You've got his ear.
My plan had called for in the first year, really like $250,000 to get everything going with studios and inventory and stuff. And over the next few years, we were thinking about getting additional investor relationship totaling up to $1 to $2 million. So do you think that maybe not going towards venture capitalists is the way to go and just growing this slowly on my own is?
If it were me, I think I would start the way that most businesses need to start, which we jokingly call the 3 Fs, friends, family, and fools. But realistically, I think you need to start with a $250,000 to $500,000 raise. You need to prove you can actually get distribution, that you can differentiate from competition, that there's enough demand. And if you get that traction, I feel very comfortable that money will follow that. The money that's likely to follow is called seed money or angel money, even though it's your next round of capital, because seed and angel money goes up to about $1 million, maybe $1.5 million. The reason I think it's probably not perfectly aligned with venture capital is venture capital is looking for enormous returns. I'm not certain that this is going to be a $100 million, $200 million a year business. And if it is, you can raise venture capital in the future as your growth warrants it.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, why the decision to go couture? Why not appeal to the masses and do a lower-end line?
Through our research and through a lot of my friends who were, dog lovers and love to dress their animals, the stuff available in the regular retailers just wasn't fashionable enough for them. So they were just really looking for something to match their own style and their own sense of fashion. So I just started creating, silk dresses and a little more higher end stuff to meet that.
I say you got to make some little boy clothes because Ramon over here, he needs like a motorcycle jacket. Right, Ramon?
He's got jewels on right now.
Jessica, it was really great of you to be here. Jessica Blood, owner of Jess & Co. Remind us why we did a segment with the dogs involved. Again, children and dogs. But anyway, this is Mark. Thank you so much for that. Can we just take a quick break and we will be right back. Mark, you have some insight into who should raise VC money and who shouldn't. So we'll talk about that when we come back right after this break. Thanks, everybody. Oh, live TV, I'm covered in dog hair. At least my dog didn't have an accident on the air. Ramon.
Children don't shed.
Thank you for that. That's my next step.
I just, everyone tries to, you have a dog instead of a kid, but.
On that note, Mark Suster is still with us from GRP Partners. Mark, thank you for that. But again, there's always a question of who should take or who needs venture capital money. How does a person know when VC money is right for them?
Let me start by saying I think the venture capital industry is one of the most important industries we have in the United States. It's our form of innovation and job creation and growth. We've created Hewlett-Packard and Cisco and Microsoft and more recently Google and Amazon. It touches us in every way. So I think it's a wonderful industry. And what's important is they invest in down markets when it's harder for companies to get revenue above costs. However, it is not always right for most entrepreneurs. In fact, I like to say usually 98% of the entrepreneurs I'm looking at, it's not right for. So the first question is, can your sales be $50 to $100 million within a 5 to 7 year time frame? It has to be pretty quick. And if it's not, venture capital is probably not right for you for the reason that venture capital is typically looking for home run exits. We're looking for above normal returns. And the problem that creates for entrepreneurs is you may have a fantastic business that can deliver you $1 million or $2 million a year of profits at a lower tax rate for you individually. But as a VC, that's not what we're looking for. The third is, are you ready for rocket fuel? Because venture capitalists need to see a return in a 7 to 10 year time horizon. So venture capitalists, when they get behind your business, they're in a bit of a rush. And if your business is kind of pointed to the side and you haven't really figured out which direction it's going to go, we know what's going to happen when you add rocket fuel. It's going to crash. And the fourth thing is, are you really ready to share control? Venture capitalists don't want to run your business, but venture capitalists want to share in the major decisions of your business. So, for example, executive hires, compensation, opening huge new regional initiatives that cost a lot of money. Those are decisions that venture capitalists are going to want to share with you. And so there is a degree of control that you'll need to share if you want to accept venture capital.
So assuming that someone is right for VC, it's not that hard to access, but there are a number of different avenues to getting into a VC.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let me say the following. Most venture capitalists have a place on their website that says submit a business plan, and my recommendation is don't.
Right.
It's not that you can't get funded, it's just a very low hit rate. I like to tell people, start with startup lawyers. Every transaction we do involves a lawyer, so there's going to be a relationship that already exists there. So, whether it's national firms that work with early stage like DLA Piper, but there's regional firms in every market. In LA, we have Stubbs Alderton and Buchalter, Niemer. There's great firms you can contact. The second thing is talk to local entrepreneurs. The people who have already raised venture capital are your best source for figuring out how to get introduced to them. And there's easy ways online to find that out. Again, in Southern California, we have a website called SoCalTech.com. They report on every funding that happens. The third thing I like to tell people is approach our portfolio companies. Every venture capital firm will list who they've invested in on their website. So there's a list of people who know how to get access to that VC. just be careful if it's Union Square Ventures and they funded Twitter. Probably calling the CEO of Twitter is going to be harder than getting access to Fred Wilson himself. But find the earlier stage groups that are actually funded. Fourth, I like to tell people is focus on social networks. And the reason I like to say that is in 1999, when I was an entrepreneur raising money, it was impossible to know who VCs actually knew. But in this market, you can go on Facebook, you can go on LinkedIn, or you can go on Twitter and find out who I'm following on Twitter. And there's a pretty good bet that those are people that have access to me. And the last recommendation I make to people is other VCs. This suggestion was given to me by a good friend, Jason Spivak, of a company called Ring Revenue that GRP actually invested in. He said to me, look, when you pitch VCs, almost always they're going to say no by definition because it's the wrong segment or it's too early. But the VCs know the other VCs. So when you pitch a VC, make sure that you ask for introduction to other VCs. I give those intros all the time.
Mark, sorry, Tracy, on Jessica's business, would you put money into that type of business? Even not necessarily VC money. Let's say you're an angel. Or you're her uncle.
So let me... if I'm her uncle for certain. Yeah. But let me say the following. Number one, just very quickly, Dagan, you're spot on. Like, you can be niche market. You can go couture. And I actually think that's a good idea because it's some way you can stand out until you build your brand. But I wouldn't focus on reducing half the market, which is mail dogs. So I think you nailed that one. But yeah, I would say angel investors would do well to put money behind Jessica. My intuition is that would be the case because I think it's a reasonable idea. But Jessica, clearly being number one in her class, focused on entrepreneurship education, the number one thing I look for is the individual, the entrepreneur. And, I think there's some validation that she's likely to be a good entrepreneur.
Trace?
I mean, I'm not a dog lover. I can't comment on this.
What do you want to ask Mark?
It seems to me, Mark, though, that the best way to do this, no matter who you are, what you are, is to get an introduction and to know somebody. Like, to go all these other routes just seems to me that you're not going to end up where you want to be. So you really do have to network and know someone kind of the old-fashioned way.
Listen, I will say this. I try to just be honest with people. I know sometimes when I tell people you need to find ways to get access, and we try to restrict access, that sometimes people think that's elitist. But let me tell you the following. Any entrepreneur worth their salt has got to know how to network and get introduced to people. And if you can't find in a social networking era how to get access to a VC, you're probably, let's be honest, not a great entrepreneur. And there's a very small group of people who are great entrepreneurs, so there's nothing wrong with everybody else. But to be a great entrepreneur is the person who gets past no, who finds a way to get introduced. And I think most VCs would say, if you can't figure out how to get an intro to them, how are you going to get access to customers?
That's a great point, because I think you either, and I'm sorry, again, it comes back to that blue flame, which you don't want me to say, but if you have the blue flame and you have the spark, you're going to get yourself in front of a VC at the end of the day.
There's no such thing as no, essentially. There's no no. There's no no. I don't take no for an answer.
I like to tell people, so I'm looking for an entrepreneur, but the number one attribute I'm looking for, number one, is tenacity. The world is filled with no's. It's not just the VCs who say no and the customers who say no. It's all your friends who say, oh, you can't do it. It's a bad idea. It's been done before. It'll never work. I'm sure people told the founder of Zappos you can never sell shoes online, and they just sold their company for near on $1 billion. So it's people who get beyond no who get funded.
Amen. And you know what? If you're one of those entrepreneurs that can't take no for an answer, get in touch with us. You have an idea that you want to pitch to a venture capitalist? This is the place to be. Let us know about it. Could be an opportunity of a lifetime for you. You tell us the product. We find you the person with the money. So email us yourmoney@foxbusiness.com, and you could be pitching your idea right here with us next week. Pretty cool.
Email.
All right, let's take a fast email before we go to break. I own a small online retail business. I have gone to trade shows and tried to get my products into stores, but the main thing is advertising. How much do I spend how much does she spend to get her name out there? Ben, I got to throw this right to you. How did you do it? How did you get your product out there?
It's putting yourself out there. I mean, literally, when we started, we're from Brooklyn, which is a very great community-based area, New York City in general, knocking on doors. I mean, we got everything running. We got our first batch out. I printed up some brochures, and I went to my local gourmet stores and said, hey, we're from Brooklyn. We have this new product. It's unique. And the first thing is, they're right. Everyone wants to say no to you immediately. So you have to be tenacious, and you also have to believe in your product. I mean, it was great, that, especially in the supermarket section. Everyone's like, oh, another food. But they would see what I had, and then I could see their demeanor change, and then you just keep pushing. So just get yourself. I mean, literally, it's not magic. It's really not. It's
Did you give it away for free in the
But
beginning?
look,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, look at Brett. I mean, this is the definition of an entrepreneur. He's sitting on your couch right now. He found a way to get coverage for his business. And it's people like that who are ultimately going to succeed. I'm sure you have hundreds of people who approach you to be on your show. Brett found a way to do it. I have to say, there's a competitor of yours, not a total competitor, that has a Cabernet Sauvignon sorbet that's absolutely killer. And I love the space. I looked at investing in the space. That particular competitor is much broader, but they found a way to get on Oprah and get suggested by Oprah as one of her favorite products of the year. So those are the kind of entrepreneurs that blow up.
Can I just say, it's a similar product, but it's not the same. It's not the same product.
That's an entrepreneur.
But wait, Ben, did you give it away for free in the beginning?
Actually, no. We've been really fortunate. Now, many people will have to give away. That was something we worked into the plan, knowing that, especially in food, slotting fees, I can talk your ear off about that. What you work as an entrepreneur, do anything to avoid giving it away for free, because cash flow is king, and with a unique product. And we've been really fortunate because of. It is completely unique, Mark, that a lot of supermarkets, and the buyers will say, they'll go a little easier on us because it's a niche, it's different, it's something. Remember, the stores are looking for something. They have to give something to their customers that's new and unique. So when someone like us come along,
Dan, wait, I want to get to Dani and John just real quick. Dani and John, when you're talking about getting your name out there, real world, online, social networking, which comes first, or you do them simultaneously?
Simultaneously, for sure. It's very interesting because there are companies like ShopBot, for example, or Zappos even, that was mentioned earlier, that took retail brands, new designers, featured them on the website to see how they would play out, while the person also had their own web store. And ultimately, they were able to get into some of the bigger department stores because they sold so well on some of the quote-unquote smaller sites, although those two sites are no longer small. So I would actually not focus on putting a lot of money. I think the question was, how much money should I spend on marketing to get into a store? I don't think that should necessarily be the key. You can build your brand. We're working with an entrepreneur right now that sells specialty T-shirts, and we're trying to convince him to stay online until there's such demand for the brand where a lot of these retailers are coming to you and saying, we've got customers in the store asking for your brand. How the hell do we get it in the shop? And that does happen. I've seen it happen with several different retail, in particular clothing designers.
John?
Absolutely. Yeah, you need advertising is not the way to build the online retail business. Advertising needs to be very targeted. You can use the social networks and try and get people to pull your product in to their lives instead of push it on them, and you'll do a lot better, as Dani said.
Speaking to social networks. Sorry, I would just say, speaking to social networks, I think one mistake people make is we all know Facebook has 250 million users. And I think people run into a problem I call the 1% of China problem, which is if I could just get 1% of China or I could just get 1% of Facebook users, wouldn't I build a great brand? You need to think about where your demo is. In the example of Brett, there's a great company that I came across called BakeSpace, bakespace.com. It's for people who are passionate about food and recipes. There's another company called Crushpad Wine, which is for wine enthusiasts who do custom production of wine. I think you need to seek out where your core demo is rather than launching into the wilderness of big social networks.
Mark, we're going to wrap. I think that is an awesome point because it's the law of diminishing returns, I think, when you get on these social networking sites. Sometimes people watching too many people, they don't actually pay attention to what they're watching anymore.
Targeting. That's it. I'm overwhelmed by the wealth of information that was just delivered.
By the blue flame entrepreneurial spark. I won't say it.
It's not the blue flame. It's where it comes from. that I have an issue
Your butt.
with. Yeah, thank you. Dani.
Thank you, Dani.
At least you didn't say something else. Quickly, we're going to take a quick break and then get some final thoughts from all our favorite people who are here. So we're going to be right back. Your questions, your money, your business. Times are running out, but Clarence is on the phone, and we want to get to his call. Clarence, welcome. What do you want to know? Go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, I'm starting a concierge business in the Hartford, Connecticut area, and I've done all the promotional campaigns. I've done the email campaigns. I've done the networking, talked to different people, talked to the property managers, but it hasn't taken traction. And I was wondering if you guys could give me any advice on how to just gain some traction with this company and get it moving.
John, I heard you muttering.
Yeah, no, concierge business, I'm thinking you're meaning an online business. Is that right, Clarence?
No, this is actually, my target is primarily to work with the A-list properties, to work as a counter concierge for their tenants and for different A-list residential properties in the downtown Hartford and the greater Hartford area, actually.
Huh, interesting idea. And I would think obviously you have to sign up the properties in order to do it. And how will the property owner that's signing it up turn this into revenues for themselves?
I'm promoting it as a way to, in this economic climate, to attract and retain current tenants and clients, and to boost traffic coming in and out of their buildings.
I think that's a good conversation to have with them. But if I were the business owner, what I'm hearing is, I'm going to pay you money and I'm not going to get any back until later when my occupancy goes up. So I'd be looking for a way to take the concierge activities you're steering people to and direct a small referral fee from those things back to the property owner and to you, so you can sell this as a revenue raiser for the property owner, not only as a retention device.
Okay.
Dani?
Yeah, one thing that I would consider is going to the customer's customer and finding out what they're interested in, and then doing your own surveys and getting your own legwork up front, and bringing then the data that shows what it is these people want that maybe the current organization is not providing, or if they don't have one at all that they're not providing, that you can bring in, which will help increase their traffic, as you're saying. So I would do some surveying. I would stand outside some of these areas. I would ask people what they'd be looking for, what would get them in the building, and then I would get all of that. 65% say they want X service, and then show that you offer that. Bring in hard data to these people, because, as John said, they're just going to look at this as a cost right now, with some gain in revenue later on down the line. And I think you're going to want to show them why it's of benefit to them right now.
And every one of those service providers is looking for customers, and they'd be happy to take 10% of their revenues and send it back your way, so you can lubricate that building owner.
Mark, quickly, some final thoughts, please, sir.
Listen, the number one way to get a business started is to get your initial customers. You've got to get out. It's not broad email lists. It's not broad social networking. Find one or two customers that you can start with. The second thing you need to do is measure performance, and take that measurement, you write it up as a white paper, and now you've got the most important thing to scale a business, which is referenceability. Right. And you can shop that referenceability more broadly, but you got to get the first few people using it. And the mistake most people make is they don't actually measure the success or performance.
Ben, what do you say to people?
My advice is to thine own self be true. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and act on them accordingly, because it's you alone out there, and it's your decisions that make a big difference. You have to be 100%, 110% honest with yourself.
Well, Brett, I hope an angel investor shines down on you.
Me too. It is so good.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Best of luck, Wine Cellar Sorbet. Thank you all for joining us and watching, and especially to our panel. Mark Suster, partner at GRP Partners. Brett Birnbaum, president and co-founder of Wine Cellar Sorbets. Of course, Dani Babb and John Rutledge for getting up early, very early on a Saturday morning. Tracy Burns as well. Love being here. We love you. Please tune in next week. We'll see you Monday.